The television reporter held up a blurred photograph of a lottery ticket and said the words that made every person at my sister's dinner table stop breathing. The winning ticket was purchased 11 days ago at Bellman's Market on West Broad Street. The prize remains unclaimed, and lottery officials are calling the buyer Columbus's missing winner. My brother-in-law slowly lowered his wineglass. My sister turned toward me, and my nephew, who had spent most of dinner making jokes about the $5 ticket sticking out of my purse, whispered, "Aunt Nora, wasn't that where you bought yours?" I did not answer. I was staring at the numbers on the screen: 14, 27, 31, 46, 62. The gold bonus number was 9. I had seen those numbers before, not on the television, not in a dream. They were written in blue ink on the back of an old pharmacy receipt that had been sitting beside my coffee cup for nearly 2 weeks. My numbers. The ticket was still in my purse. At least, I thought it was. When I reached inside, my fingers touched my wallet, my keys, a packet of tissues, and the smooth plastic case of my reading glasses. But the ticket was gone. That was the first question. Where had it gone? The second question came when my brother-in-law stood up too quickly and said he needed to make a phone call. The third came a few minutes later, when I found a photocopy of my ticket folded inside his desk drawer. I did not know it yet, but the lottery prize was only the small secret hidden inside that house. Good day, dear listeners. It's Nora again. I'm glad you're here with me. Please subscribe to my channel and like this video. And also let me know in the comments which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. My name is Nora Whitaker. At the time this happened, I was 48 years old and living in Columbus, Ohio. I worked as a senior billing coordinator for a regional medical equipment company. It was not glamorous work, but it suited me. I spent my days studying invoices, insurance codes, payment histories, authorizations, corrections, and the small inconsistencies that most people dismissed as clerical errors. Numbers rarely lie. People lie around numbers. They move them, rename them, delay them, split them between accounts, or bury them beneath paperwork. But if you are patient, the pattern usually reveals itself. That belief had shaped most of my adult life. My husband Daniel used to tease me for balancing our household budget down to the last 12 cents. He said I could detect an incorrect grocery receipt from across the room. Daniel died 3 years before the lottery ticket entered my life. He suffered a sudden brain aneurysm while repairing a loose board on our back porch. One morning, we were arguing gently about whether the kitchen needed new cabinets. By sunset, I was sitting beneath hospital lights with his wedding ring in my palm. Grief did not arrive in one dramatic wave. It entered through ordinary things. A second coffee mug left untouched. A coat still hanging behind the door. A package addressed to him 6 months after the funeral. For the first year, I moved through my days as though I were processing a long, complicated claim. I signed forms, I closed accounts, I canceled subscriptions, I answered condolences, I filed documents in labeled folders because organizing paper was easier than organizing pain. Daniel and I had not been wealthy, but we had been careful. We owned a modest 2-bedroom bungalow in the Hilltop neighborhood. There was still a mortgage, though the balance was manageable. I drove a 9-year-old Honda. I packed my lunch most days and kept a small vegetable garden behind the house. My sister Elaine lived differently. Elaine was 4 years younger than I was and had always believed money was meant to be visible. Her husband, Grant Mercer, was a financial advisor with a polished office downtown, expensive suits, and a talent for making ordinary people feel unsophisticated. Their house had pale stone columns, 3 fireplaces, and rooms no one seemed to use. Grant spoke calmly, even when he was insulting you. He never said, "You don't understand money." He said, "Financial structures can be difficult for people outside the industry." He never called my house small. He called it appropriately scaled for a single occupant. After Daniel died, Grant began offering to review my finances. At first, I believed he was trying to help. He examined my life insurance paperwork and suggested that I transfer the proceeds into an investment account managed by his firm. I thanked him and declined. Daniel had left enough to pay part of the mortgage and create a sensible emergency fund. I was not interested in high returns. I wanted stability. Grant smiled when I told him that. "Cash feels safe," he said, But feelings are not a strategy. Neither is pressure, I thought. I did not say it. Elaine usually remained quiet during those conversations. She had become skilled at smoothing over Grant's remarks with laughter. Nora has always been cautious, she would say. Remember how she used to count her Halloween candy? It was true. I did count it. I also noticed when pieces went missing. The lottery ticket began with a broken refrigerator. Mine stopped cooling on a Thursday morning in late April. I discovered it when the milk smelled sour and the frozen vegetables felt soft. The repairman charged $85 to tell me the compressor was failing and recommended replacing the entire unit. I spent that afternoon comparing prices and reading warranty terms. By the time I left the appliance store, I was tired, irritated, and $700 poorer. On the drive home, I stopped at Bellman's Market for coffee filters and a loaf of bread. There was a handwritten sign beside the cash register announcing that the state lottery jackpot had reached $38 million. I had never been a regular lottery player. Daniel and I occasionally bought a ticket on our anniversary, choosing numbers connected to our wedding date. That day, without much thought, I asked the cashier for one $5 ticket. Feeling lucky, she asked. Not especially, I said. She laughed and handed it to me. I chose the numbers myself. 14 was the day Daniel and I met. 27 was the street number of our first apartment. 31 was his age when we married. 46 was the number of years my parents had been married before my father died. 62 was the age Daniel had expected to retire. The bonus number 9 came from the number of tomato plants he insisted we needed every summer, although 6 would have been plenty. I wrote the numbers on the back of the pharmacy receipt because the lottery machine made a loud noise, and I wanted to confirm the clerk had entered them correctly. Then I folded the ticket into my purse and forgot about it. The following Sunday, Elaine invited me to dinner. Family dinners at her house had become less frequent since Daniel's death. I had never been sure whether they worried I would be uncomfortable or whether my quietness made them uncomfortable. That evening, Grant grilled salmon on the patio while Elaine served roasted potatoes and asparagus. Their son, Kyle, had recently returned from his first year at college. Their daughter, Madison, was finishing high school. Kyle noticed the corner of the lottery ticket when I opened my purse to retrieve a packet of mints. Aunt Nora bought a lottery ticket, he announced. Elaine laughed. You? It was $5. Grant looked over from the grill. The lottery is a tax on people who misunderstand probability. It costs less than the coffee you're drinking, I said. Kyle held up his hands. I'm not judging. I just didn't know Aunt Nora had a wild side. They continued joking about what I would do if I won. Madison said I would probably put the money into a savings account and never touch it. Elaine said I might finally replace my old bathroom tile. Grant said, knowing Nora, she would spend 3 months verifying the check. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. There was nothing cruel in the moment, or at least nothing cruel enough to recognize immediately. That is how certain kinds of betrayal begin. Not with an attack, with familiarity, with people who know exactly how much disrespect you have learned to tolerate. After dinner, Elaine asked me to help carry dessert plates into the kitchen. I left my purse on a chair near the dining table. We ate lemon cake in the living room. Grant asked about my retirement plan again. He said his firm had introduced a conservative portfolio specifically designed for widows. The word irritated me, not because I was ashamed of being a widow, but because he used it like a weakness category. I'm comfortable with my current plan, I told him. You're comfortable because you haven't stress tested it. My life has been stress tested. Elaine looked down at her plate. Grant gave me a sympathetic smile. I didn't mean emotionally, of course he had. When I left their house, I did not check my purse. For the next 10 days, life continued normally. I went to work. I ordered a new refrigerator. I attended a dental appointment. I cleared dead leaves from the garden and replaced 2 cracked stepping stones behind the house. There were small things I noticed, though I did not connect them at first. Grant called me twice. He usually contacted me only through Elaine, but now he wanted to know whether I had reviewed the investment information he had emailed. During the second call, he asked casually whether I ever kept important documents in my purse. I'm updating a client security seminar, he explained. Women often carry too much personal information. I told him I carried my driver's license and one credit card. What about receipts? Checks? Lottery tickets? He laughed after saying it, as though the last item were a joke. I remember standing beside my office window, looking down at the parking lot. Why are you asking about lottery tickets? Because Elaine told me about your retirement plan. He made it sound harmless. Still, I wrote the date and time of the call on a yellow legal pad. It was a habit from work. Whenever a conversation felt unclear, I documented it. 3 days later, Elaine came to my house without calling. She brought muffins and said she had been shopping nearby. Elaine rarely shopped in my neighborhood. While I made tea, she wandered into the dining room and looked through a stack of mail on the table. "Are you searching for something?" I asked. She pulled her hand back. "No, I was just looking at your appliance receipt. Did the new refrigerator cost that much?" Her voice was too bright. I folded the receipt and placed it inside a drawer. Then she asked whether I still had the lottery ticket. I looked at her. She smiled. "Kyle keeps asking if you won. The drawing hasn't happened yet." "Oh, I didn't know." The drawing date was printed in large letters across the ticket. I had not shown her the front of it. That evening, I checked my purse for the first time. The ticket was still there, or what I believed was the ticket. I did not take it out. I saw the folded white paper in the inside pocket and felt foolish for being suspicious. The drawing took place on a Wednesday night. I forgot to watch it. The next evening, I went to Elaine's house for dinner because Madison had received a college scholarship, and the family was celebrating. That was when the reporter announced the missing winner. As soon as the numbers appeared on the screen, I knew. I did not need to check the pharmacy receipt. Those numbers belonged to memories, and memories have their own rhythm. 14, 27, 31, 46, 62, 9. Kyle asked whether I had bought my ticket at Bellman's market. I reached into my purse. The folded paper was gone. In its place was a different lottery ticket. Same drawing date, same store, different numbers. For several seconds, I could not understand what I was seeing. The ticket looked almost identical to mine. It had been folded twice, exactly as I had folded the original, but the numbers were random. 3, 19, 24, 51, 68, bonus number 11. Elaine was watching me. Grant had already left the room with his phone. "Is it yours?" Madison asked. "No," I said. The word came out quietly. Kyle exhaled and laughed. "That would have been insane." Elaine touched my arm. "Maybe you remembered the numbers wrong." I wrote them down. "Where?" "On a receipt." She looked toward the hallway where Grant had disappeared. Then she said, "Receipts are easy to misread." That was when I understood that my ticket had not been lost. It had been replaced. Fear is strange. It does not always make you small. Sometimes it sharpens the edges of a room. I noticed the half-finished wine in Grant's glass. I noticed Elaine twisting her napkin beneath the table. I noticed that the door to Grant's home office was slightly open. I stood up. "I need to use the restroom." The downstairs bathroom was beside Grant's office. I walked into the hallway, waited until the family resumed talking, and slipped through the office door. The room smelled of leather and cedar polish. Grant's desk was spotless except for a closed laptop, a silver pen, and a stack of folders aligned precisely with the edge. The top drawer was locked. The second was not. Inside it were client brochures, business cards, and a small black notebook. Beneath the notebook was a folded sheet of paper. I opened it. It was a photocopy of my lottery ticket. The original ticket with my numbers, my drawing date, and the location code for Bellman's market. At the bottom of the page, written in Grant's handwriting, were 4 words. "Verify ownership before claim." My hands became cold. I photographed the photocopy with my phone. Then I opened the black notebook. The first several pages contained appointment times and account figures. Near the middle, I found my name, Nora W. Below it were 3 dates. The date of our family dinner. The date Grant called me at work. The date Elaine visited my house. Beside the final date, he had written, "No signature sample obtained." I heard footsteps in the hallway. I returned everything to the drawer and closed it. When Grant appeared in the doorway, he was smiling. "Everything all right?" "I was looking for the bathroom. It's the next door. I see that now." For a moment, neither of us moved. He glanced at my phone. then at the desk drawer. His expression did not change, but something behind it did. Professional people often believe calmness makes them unreadable. It does not. Calmness is only another kind of handwriting. I went to the bathroom, locked the door, and emailed the photograph to myself. Then I sent it to an old email address Grant did not know about. When I returned to the living room, he was standing beside Elaine. "We should check your car," he said. "The ticket may have fallen out." "It didn't. You can't know that. I know it was replaced." The room became silent. Elaine looked at me as if I had said something embarrassing. "Nora, that's a serious accusation. I did not accuse anyone. You said it was replaced. It was." Grant approached slowly, wearing the patient expression he used when explaining investments to nervous clients. "Let's be rational. You bought a lottery ticket. You heard similar numbers on television, and now you're upset. Memory under emotional stress can be unreliable. You asked me whether I kept lottery tickets in my purse." His smile tightened. "I made a joke. You also asked Elaine to visit my house." Elaine stood up. "He did not ask me." Grant looked at her. It lasted less than a second, but I saw it. A correction, a warning. Elaine lowered her eyes. I picked up my coat. Grant said, "Before you leave, perhaps you should give me the ticket you have. I can ask one of my contacts at the Lottery Commission to verify it. Nora, if there is confusion, I may be able to protect you from making a public mistake. I am not giving you anything." He held my gaze. Then his voice softened. "Of course." I drove home with both hands tight around the steering wheel. The city looked unusually bright. Every traffic light, every gas station sign, every pair of headlights seemed too sharp. I parked in my driveway but did not go inside. I sat in the dark car and listened to the engine click as it cooled. $38 million. Even after federal and state taxes, the amount would be larger than anything I knew how to imagine. But money was not the thought frightening me. Grant had copied my ticket before the drawing. He had recorded dates. He had tried to obtain a sample of my signature. That meant he had not acted impulsively after hearing the winning numbers. He had prepared in advance. Why would a financial advisor steal a lottery ticket that had almost no chance of winning? Unless he had known something I did not. I sat there for a long time. Then I called the non-emergency police number. The officer who answered listened politely, but explained that without the original ticket, my claim would be difficult to prove. "Lottery tickets are bearer instruments," he said. "Possession usually matters. I have a photograph of a photocopy. Who currently has the original?" "I believe my brother-in-law does." "Did you see him take it?" "No." "Did anyone witness you purchasing it?" "The cashier may remember me. He advised me to contact the Lottery Commission immediately and speak with an attorney before confronting my family again." I thanked him and wrote down his name, badge number, and the time of the call. Then I went inside. My kitchen was warm because the new refrigerator had been delivered that afternoon. The old one had left faint grooves in the floor. A clean white appliance stood in its place, humming quietly as if nothing in my life had changed. I placed my purse on the table. I laid out everything inside it: wallet, keys, glasses, tissues, receipts, the false lottery ticket. At the bottom of the inner pocket, I found a narrow strip of clear adhesive film. It was the kind used for lifting fingerprints. I knew because Daniel had once worked as a facilities manager for a courthouse and had shown me similar strips during a security renovation. Someone had not only taken my ticket, someone had tried to collect evidence from my purse. I placed the strip and the false ticket in separate plastic sandwich bags. Then I opened my laptop and searched for lottery attorneys in Ohio. That was how I found Marisol Vega. Her website did not mention jackpots or luxury. It described her as a former assistant attorney general who specialized in financial fraud, probate disputes, and complex ownership claims. I sent her a short email at 11:43 that night. I did not include the prize amount. I wrote only, "I believe a family member removed and replaced a lottery ticket from my purse before the drawing. I have photographed a photocopy of the original in his office and found evidence that he may have attempted to obtain my signature. I need advice before the ticket is claimed." Marisol called me at 7:15 the next morning. Her voice was calm and direct. "Do not contact your sister or brother-in-law," she said. "Do not post anything online. Do not speak to the media. Do not enter the lottery office alone. And do not throw away a single piece of paper." "I haven't." "Good. Can you come to my office at 9? "Yes. Bring the purse." Her office occupied the second floor of an old brick building near German Village. There were no marble floors or decorative fountains. The waiting room had 2 wooden chairs, a bookcase, and a plant that needed water. I liked it immediately. Marisol was in her early 50s, with silver beginning at her temples, and a legal pad already open when I entered. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she asked precise questions. When did I purchase the ticket? How did I pay? Was I part of an office pool? Had I signed the ticket? Who had access to my purse? Had Grant ever handled my finances? Did Elaine have a key to my house? I answered each question carefully. "I paid cash," I said. "I did not sign the ticket. I usually do, but I forgot." Marisol made a note. "That creates a problem, but not necessarily a fatal one." She examined the false ticket through a clear evidence sleeve. "The replacement was purchased at the same store," she said. "I noticed that, and within 4 minutes of yours." I had not noticed that. The transaction timestamp was printed near the bottom. My real ticket, according to the photocopy, had been printed at 4:18 p.m. The false ticket had been printed at 4:22 p.m. Marisol leaned back. "Whoever replaced it either bought both tickets during the same visit or returned to the store immediately after you. I was alone. Did anyone know where you were?" I thought about the appliance. Store. I had texted Elaine a photograph of 2 refrigerator models and asked which finish she preferred. The photograph included the Bellman's market sign across the shopping plaza. Elaine knew. Marisol did not react. She simply wrote it down. Then she asked about Grant's financial business. I told her he owned Mercer Wealth Strategies and claimed to manage more than $200 million in client assets. "Claims?" she asked. "That is the number on his website." "Has he ever been investigated?" "Not that I know of." She turned her computer toward me and searched public regulatory records. There were no formal disciplinary findings under Grant's name, but his firm had changed legal entities 3 times in 8 years. Mercer Wealth Strategies LLC, MWS Advisory Group, Stone Harbor Private Planning. Each company had operated from the same address with nearly identical staff. "Why change names?" I asked. "There can be legitimate reasons," Marisol said. "Tax structure, mergers, branding. But repeated changes can also separate liabilities." She printed the registrations. Then she called the Lottery Commission's Security Division. She identified herself as my attorney and reported a disputed ownership claim involving the winning ticket. The person on the other end spoke for several minutes. Marisol's expression changed. "What is it?" I asked after she ended the call. "No one has submitted the original ticket yet." Relief passed through me. Then she added, "But someone contacted the commission yesterday evening and asked about claiming through a trust." "What kind of trust?" They did not provide a name. They asked whether an anonymous limited liability company could claim the prize on behalf of a trust beneficiary. Was it Grant? "The commission will preserve the call recording." She closed her. Legal pad. "Your brother-in-law may believe possession gives him ownership, but large claims receive intense verification. Store footage, transaction data, phone location, financial records, witness statements, and document history all matter. So we can stop him. We can notify the commission of the dispute, which prevents immediate payment. Stopping him permanently requires proof. I have the photograph. You have the beginning of proof." That phrase stayed with me. The beginning of proof. In billing work, one irregular invoice was not fraud. It was a discrepancy. A pattern required comparison. Marisol asked me to reconstruct the purchase day minute by minute. I returned home and opened my bank, phone, email, and location histories. Because I had paid cash, there was no direct transaction record, but I had withdrawn $40 from an ATM at the appliance store 12 minutes before visiting Bellman's. My phone's location history placed me inside the market. A text to Elaine showed the time I left the appliance store. The pharmacy receipt on which I had written the winning numbers was still on my kitchen counter. I photographed it beneath bright light. The ink matched a pen I kept in my purse. More importantly, the receipt carried a timestamp of 4:20 p.m. from the pharmacy counter inside Bellman's Market. That placed me in the store between the printing of the real ticket at 4:18 and the false ticket at 4:22. Why had I bought something at the pharmacies? Then I remembered. A packet of allergy medicine. I found it unopened in the bathroom cabinet. The lot number was traceable to Bellman's inventory. Small ordinary objects. That was how truth often survived, not dramatically. Quietly, inside drawers and cupboards, Marisol obtained an emergency preservation request for the store security footage. Bellman's normally deleted video after 30 days. We were on day 12. The footage showed me entering at 4:13 p.m. I purchased coffee filters, bread, allergy medicine, and the lottery ticket. At 4:21, I left the store. At 4:22, a man wearing a baseball cap entered through the opposite door, approached the same cashier, and purchased one lottery ticket. The camera did not clearly capture his face, but it captured his watch, a large silver watch with a dark green dial. Grant wore the same model. So did thousands of other men. The footage also showed the man leaving in a black SUV. Grant drove a black SUV, again suggestive, not conclusive. Then Marisol requested traffic camera footage from the intersection. That footage captured the SUV's rear license plate. The vehicle was registered to Mercer Wealth Strategies. When Marisol called with the news, I sat at my desk at work and stared at the rows of billing codes on my monitor. Grant had followed me. He had seen me buy the original ticket. Then he had purchased a second ticket minutes later. But the most disturbing question remained: why? He could not have known mine would win, unless the ticket itself had never been the original target. That afternoon, I received an email from Elaine. The subject line was, "Please don't escalate this. Nora, Grant told me you may have misunderstood something you saw in his office. He sometimes uses examples from family situations in his professional training materials. The photocopy was probably related to fraud prevention. This situation is becoming painful for everyone, especially the children. Please do not make accusations that could damage Grant's career or our family's reputation. You know he has always tried to help you. Call me when you are ready to discuss this calmly. Love, Elaine." I forwarded it to Marisol. Then I replied with one sentence: "Please direct any communication about the lottery ticket to my attorney." Elaine called me 7 times. I did not answer. Grant called once. His voicemail lasted 43 seconds. "Nora, this has clearly become emotionally charged. I respect your decision to seek counsel. However, involving outside parties before we clarify the facts may create unnecessary consequences. There are private ways to resolve misunderstandings. I strongly recommend you consider the impact on Elaine. Polite concern, private resolution, family impact." He had arranged the pressure like entries in a ledger. Marisol instructed me to save the voicemail in 3 locations. She also hired a forensic accountant named Peter Lang. Peter had spent 20 years tracing assets in divorce cases and investment fraud investigations. He wore wrinkled shirts and spoke as though every sentence had already been audited. He examined Grant's corporate filings, civil cases, property records, and regulatory disclosures. 3 days later, he found something. A lawsuit filed 6 years earlier by an elderly couple named Harold and June Beckett. They had accused Stone Harbor Private Planning, one of Grant's former firms, of transferring money from a conservative retirement account into high-risk private investments without informed consent. The case settled confidentially. 2 years later, another client filed a similar complaint. That case disappeared after mediation. Neither resulted in formal disciplinary action. "Settlement can bury facts," Peter said, "but repeated facts leave shapes." He discovered that both disputed investments had been placed into companies connected to a man named Victor Sloan. Victor was a regional developer, political donor, and longtime client of Grant's. He also served on the board of a nonprofit that had recently received a contract from the Ohio Lottery Commission to advise on vendor security. The connection did not prove the drawing was manipulated. Marisol was careful about that. But it explained why Grant might have believed he had access to information other people did not. Then Peter found a wire transfer. The afternoon before I bought the ticket, a company controlled by Victor Sloan sent $75,000 to a consulting business registered to Grant's assistant. The transfer memo read, Data Review Services. The next morning, the assistant withdrew $10,000 in cash. 2 days after the drawing, she deposited $8,600 back into the same account. Peter circled the figures. Someone spent $1,400 in cash, he said. On lottery tickets? Possibly. Marisol requested statewide ticket sales records for the 4-hour period surrounding my purchase. A cluster of more than 200 tickets had been purchased at stores across Franklin County, using the same combination strategy. The purchases appeared random, but the timing was not. They occurred within 90 minutes. Security footage identified Grant, his assistant, and 3 employees connected to Victor Sloan. They had been buying combinations, not because they knew the exact winning numbers, because they may have received partial information. Perhaps 3 numbers, perhaps 4, enough to reduce probability dramatically if they purchased hundreds of combinations. My ticket had been an accident. I chose my own numbers. Grant saw me buy it while he was conducting his coordinated purchasing plan. When the numbers were drawn, he realized that the winning ticket was not one of theirs. It was mine. That was why he had followed me into Bellman's. He wanted proof of which ticket I held, perhaps to track it later. He bought a replacement ticket at the same store, so that, if he obtained mine, I would assume I had misremembered the numbers. He photographed or copied the original during family dinner. Then he replaced it, but that still did not explain the signature note. No signature sample obtained. Marisol explained the likely purpose. If Grant planned to claim through a trust or limited liability company, he might create an assignment document stating that you transferred ownership before the drawing. A forged transfer? Possibly. Would that work? Not if challenged. But if no one knew you had the winning numbers, he may have expected no challenge. I thought about Elaine searching my mail. Grant may have asked her to find a signature sample that could be copied onto a transfer agreement. My own sister. That realization hurt more than the theft. Money creates noise around seat people. It makes their motives louder, but betrayal existed before the money. The prize only turned up the volume. A week after the disputed claim was reported, Grant arrived at my house. It was just after 8 in the evening. The porch light was on. I was sitting at the kitchen table reviewing copies of the store footage summary when the doorbell rang. Marisol had advised me not to meet Grant alone, so I did not open the door. I spoke through the security camera. You need to leave. I only want 5 minutes. Contact my attorney. This is not an attorney matter. This is a family matter. You made it an attorney matter. He glanced toward the street. There are things you do not understand. That is usually what people say when they do not want to provide documents. His face remained composed. I know you believe the ticket belongs to you. It does. You cannot prove that. I do not need to discuss my evidence with you. For the first time, irritation entered his voice. Nora, the lottery commission will not pay anyone while this dispute continues. The ticket expires in 6 months. Legal proceedings could last longer. Then you should return it. A pause. I do not have it. Then why are you here? He looked directly into the camera. To offer you certainty. He proposed a settlement. $5 million, paid through a trust, in exchange for withdrawing my ownership claim and signing a confidentiality agreement. He said the offer was generous because I had no physical possession of the ticket. I asked one question. Why would you offer $5 million for a ticket you say you do not have? He stared at the camera. That was the first mistake he made in front of a recording device. He tried to recover. I am speaking hypothetically. No, Grant, you came to my house with a number. He lowered his voice. Elaine could lose everything. I did not put her in danger. You have no idea what this investigation could uncover. I felt something settle inside me, not courage, clarity. What would it uncover? He stepped closer to the door. You are treating this like one of your billing disputes. You think every answer is sitting inside a file. The world does not work that way. My world does. His expression hardened. You are not built for this. Leave my property. He stood beneath the porch light for several seconds. Then he said, $5 million is more money than you will ever need. This is not about what I need. It will become about survival. I saved the recording and sent it to Marisol. By the next morning, she had delivered it to Lottery Security and the State Attorney General's office. The investigation widened. Search warrants were executed at Grant's office, his assistant's home, and 2 properties owned by Victor Sloan. The original lottery ticket was not found. Grant's attorneys issued a statement denying wrongdoing and calling my allegations a private family disagreement. Elaine stopped speaking to me. Kyle sent one message. "I don't know what's true, but Mom is falling apart," I replied. "I am sorry she is hurting. I will not discuss evidence with you. I love you." Madison did not contact me at all. At work, 2 coworkers began avoiding my desk after local reporters published my name. Someone photographed my house. A television van parked across the street for 3 days. The news called me the widow claiming to be the missing winner. Comment sections described me as greedy, confused, clever, pathetic, brave, dishonest, and lucky. Most of the people writing those words had never met me. Public opinion is an account with no auditing standards. I stopped reading. Marisol arranged for me to work remotely and helped obtain a temporary protective order preventing Grant from contacting me directly. Then Peter found the stronger evidence. Grant's office server contained a deleted folder labeled Scenario Planning. The files had been recovered by forensic specialists. Inside were spreadsheets listing hundreds of lottery combinations, store locations, employee assignments, and estimated purchase times. One spreadsheet contained my winning numbers. Beside them were the initials NW. Another document was a draft assignment agreement stating that I had transferred all ownership rights in one lottery ticket to Mercer Opportunity Trust in exchange for financial consulting services. The signature line was blank. The file had been created 2 days before the drawing, modified the night after family dinner. There was also a scanned image of my signature. It came from a Christmas card I had mailed to Elaine the previous year. My sister had given it to him. I sat in Marisol's office while she explained what the forensic report meant. "Grant did not simply take advantage of an opportunity," she said. "He prepared a fraudulent ownership document before he knew whether the ticket would win. Why include my initials in the spreadsheet before the drawing? He may have photographed your ticket when you purchased it. The store footage did not show him near me. He could have used the zoom lens on his phone from the parking lot." Peter slid another photograph across the table. It was taken from Grant's cloud account. The image showed me standing at the lottery counter. The ticket was visible in my hand. The timestamp was 4:19 p.m. He had followed me because of Elaine's text. He had been in the same shopping plaza, coordinating purchases. When he saw me buy a ticket, he photographed it in case my random numbers overlapped with the partial information he believed he had received. They did more than overlap. They won. The only item missing from the recovered files was the location of the physical ticket. Without it, the lottery could not release the prize. Then, almost 2 months after the drawing, Elaine called Marisol. She wanted immunity. Marisol did not promise it. She arranged a meeting with investigators. Elaine arrived wearing a plain gray sweater. I watched from an adjoining room through a video monitor because I was not permitted to participate. She looked older. She admitted that Grant had told her my ticket might be worth a significant amount before the televised announcement. He claimed he had received preliminary data suggesting several numbers matched. He asked her to remove the ticket from my purse during dinner. "What did you think you were doing?" the investigator asked. Elaine cried quietly. "He said Nora had agreed to let him manage it." "Did you believe that?" "I wanted to." She described taking the ticket into Grant's office, where he copied it. Grant then gave her the replacement ticket and told her to place it in my purse. "Where is the original now?" "I don't know." The investigator waited. Elaine covered her face. Grant put it in the wall, safe in his office. But when the search happened, it was gone. Who else knew the safe combination? His assistant. And me. "Did you remove it?" "No." "Did Grant?" "I think he gave it to Victor." She also admitted entering my house with the spare key I had given her years earlier. Grant wanted a signed document he could use as a signature model. She searched my desk but did not find what he needed. Later, she remembered the Christmas card. The betrayal was complete. But hearing the truth did not bring satisfaction. I watched my sister cry beneath fluorescent lights and remembered her at 10 years old, sleeping beside me during thunderstorms. People are not divided cleanly into good and evil. Sometimes they are weak. Sometimes they love comfort more than truth. Sometimes they make one cowardly choice, then spend months protecting it. Elaine had betrayed me. Grant had manipulated her. Both things were true. Her testimony led investigators to Victor Sloan. Phone records showed that Grant drove to Victor's country property the morning after our confrontation. A groundskeeper reported seeing the two men near an outdoor fireplace. Investigators searched the ashes and found fragments of heat-resistant lottery paper. The serial number was destroyed, but microscopic analysis revealed partial printing patterns consistent with the state lottery's ticket stock. Grant had burned the original. At first, I thought that meant the money was gone forever. Marisol explained otherwise. The state lottery had never faced an identical situation, but courts could establish ownership through secondary evidence when a bearer instrument was destroyed as part of fraud. The commission filed an interpleader action in Franklin County Common Pleas Court, asking a judge to determine the lawful owner before authorizing payment. Grant claimed I had voluntarily transferred the ticket. Victor claimed he had no knowledge of it. The unsigned assignment document became the center of the case. Grant's attorneys argued that the blank signature was evidence the transfer had not been completed. Marisol argued that it was evidence of an attempted forgery interrupted by my discovery. During deposition, Grant remained polite. He wore a navy suit and spoke slowly. He said he had purchased the false ticket as a gift. He said he copied mine for a hypothetical client seminar. He said the assignment agreement was a template. He said the initials NW stood for number waiting. He said his $5 million offer had been an attempt to preserve family peace. Marisol allowed him to explain every answer completely. That is an important thing about lies. People often believe detail strengthens them. Sometimes detail only creates more surfaces for truth to strike. She showed him the photograph from the parking lot. He said he did not remember taking it. She showed him the spreadsheet. He said an employee may have entered my initials. She showed him the Christmas card scan. He said it had been stored for personal reasons. Then she played the porch recording. You are treating this like one of your billing disputes. You think every answer is sitting inside a file. Marisol paused the recording. What answers were you concerned she might find in a file? Grant looked toward his attorney. I was speaking generally about what, family matters, was lossery manipulation a family matter. I reject that characterization. Was stealing your sister-in-law's ticket a family matter? I did not steal anything. Then why did you tell her the investigation could uncover things she did not understand? I was concerned about reputational harm. To whom? To everyone involved, especially you, his attorney objected. Grant drank water. For the first time, his hand shook. The state's forensic analyst testified next. He explained the deleted spreadsheets, metadata, document revisions, cloud backups, geolocation data, and recovered signature image. Bellman's cashier identified me as the woman who selected the winning numbers. The appliance store employee confirmed I had been alone. My pharmacy receipt established the timeline. The allergy medicine lot number confirmed the purchase. Phone data placed Grant's device outside Bellman's during the transaction. Vehicle records placed his SUV at the store 4 minutes later. Elaine testified that she removed and replaced the ticket at his direction. The groundskeeper testified that Grant and Victor burned paper at the country property. A lottery data contractor testified that Victor had requested unauthorized access to preliminary testing files. Those files did not contain the winning numbers, but they did contain a partial data set produced during a vendor system rehearsal. Grant had misunderstood what he received. He believed the data gave him an advantage. It did not. The official drawing used a separate, independently audited system. My numbers won by coincidence. That was the final irony. Grant risked his career, his marriage, and his freedom because he believed the game was rigged in his favor. It was not. The judge issued a 108-page decision. She found by clear and convincing evidence that I had purchased the winning ticket, retained ownership, and never assigned my rights. She found that Grant intentionally removed, concealed, and destroyed the bearer instrument to prevent my claim. She ordered the lottery commission to recognize me as the lawful winner using the ticket's verified transaction record and serial data recovered from its photocopy. Grant and Victor were referred for criminal prosecution. Grant later pleaded guilty to conspiracy, attempted forgery, evidence destruction, and wire fraud connected to his advisory business. The lottery investigation exposed more than the ticket scheme. Peter's work led authorities to several clients whose money had been redirected into companies tied to Victor. Restitution claims exceeded $12 million. Victor went to trial and was convicted on multiple fraud and obstruction charges. Grant lost his licenses. His firm collapsed. The large house was sold. Elaine was not charged with felony theft because of her cooperation, though she entered a diversion agreement for unlawful access to my home and provided testimony in the financial fraud cases. The prize was finally released 9 months after the drawing. I chose the lump sum payment. After taxes, legal fees, security planning, and the creation of a carefully structured trust, the amount was still more than I could spend responsibly in several lifetimes. But the day the funds arrived did not feel like victory. There were no cameras, no giant check, no champagne. I sat in Marisol's conference room with a cup of coffee while Peter confirmed the transfer. He turned the laptop toward me. The number on the screen looked unreal. I expected to feel transformed. Instead, I felt tired. Marisol asked, "Are you all right?" I looked at the balance. Then at the file boxes stacked against the wall. I thought this would feel louder. "Most freedom is quiet," she said. "I paid off my mortgage. Then I sold the bungalow. Not because it was too small, but because reporters and strangers knew the address. I bought a simple house outside Granville with a wide porch, mature maple trees, and enough land for a larger garden. The kitchen cabinets were blue. Daniel would have disliked the color. That made me smile. I kept working for another year. People found that strange. Some asked why I continued reviewing billing corrections when I could resign immediately. The answer was simple. My work belonged to me. The money had entered my life through theft, fear, and public attention. I needed part of my routine to remain untouched. Eventually, I reduced my hours and helped create a nonprofit legal fund for widows and older adults targeted by financial manipulation. We paid for forensic accounting, document review, and emergency legal advice. I insisted that the program teach practical habits, save voicemails, photograph documents, read account statements, ask questions before signing. Do not allow politeness to replace verification. The first person we helped was a retired school secretary whose nephew had been withdrawing money from her account. The amount was not millions, it was $14,000. To her, it was everything. When we recovered most of it, she held my hands and cried. That moment meant more to me than seeing the lottery balance. I traveled, but not extravagantly. I visited Maine in autumn because Daniel had always wanted to see the coastline there. I took his old camera and photographed lighthouses, fishing boats, and gray water beneath a silver sky. At one quiet overlook, I placed a small stone from our garden beside the railing. I did not speak to him. I did not need to. Some relationships continue without conversation. Elaine and I did not repair things quickly. For nearly a year, we communicated only through occasional letters. She apologized many times. At first, her apologies contained explanations. Grant had pressured her. She was afraid of losing the house. She thought he knew what he was doing. She believed the ticket would never win. Eventually, the explanations disappeared. One letter said only, "I chose his comfort over your trust. I knew it was wrong while I was doing it. I am sorry." That was the first apology I believed. We began meeting for coffee in public places, then for walks. Trust did not return as a feeling. It returned as a series of small, verifiable actions. She respected boundaries. She answered difficult questions. She did not ask me for money. When she found work as an office administrator, I congratulated her, but did not offer financial help. Healing without boundaries is only another form of forgetting. Kyle apologized for doubting me. Madison took longer. She had lost the life she expected, and part of her blamed me for exposing her father. One afternoon, almost 2 years after the dinner, she visited my house. We sat on the porch while rain moved across the garden. She asked whether I could have accepted the $5 million offer, and kept the family together. I answered honestly. The family was already broken. The offer only asked me to hide the damage. She looked toward the tomato plants. Do you hate him? No, that surprised her. I hate what he did. But hatred is expensive. I have already paid enough, she cried then, not dramatically. Quietly, with her hands folded in her lap, I made tea. We did not solve everything that afternoon, but we began. I still keep the false lottery ticket. It sits inside an evidence sleeve in a locked file cabinet. Not the winning ticket, the replacement, the worthless one. People sometimes ask why I keep it, because it reminds me that appearances are not records. Something can look correct, feel familiar, and sit exactly where you expect it to be, yet still be false. The truth often begins with the moment you notice one number is wrong. I did not become a different person because of the lottery. I still compare prices. I still balance my accounts.